is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 7th of August, 2020, and I am 2J.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, man eating RUTO's lunch. In the Standard, cracking open the mystery of Corona billions. And in the Star, boarding schools may be suspended in 2021. I suspect we begin with the Daily Nation. Who took RUTO's mursik and ugali?
Must have been a bully.
And why are they taking it?
This is how we're starting our episode. All right, so the Daily Nation is telling us that they have gone to speak to Dr. Matiang'i for the same reason that every reporter and every observer of Kenyan politics would.
Yeah.
If the I'm going to actually read verbatim what they said because it's quite interesting. If the Jubilee government of Uhuru and Kenyatta were a family, and Mr. Kenyatta was one spouse and Mr. Ruto the other, while Interior Minister Matiang'i was just a friend of Kenyatta, there are reasonable grounds for Ruto to urgently request the intervention of a family pastor, the bishop even, and also spend some time with a good family lawyer in anticipation of a divorce. And so they're saying, in their view, or in the view of many observers, the man who's eating Ruto's lunch is none other than Matiang'i himself.
Wow, super minister.
Yes, so they say that based on Executive Order number 1 of 2019, which led us to the evolution of the so-called administrative state, appointments were made for Matiang'i to coordinate all government development projects and to handle the communication in respect of those projects.
Yeah, and this effectively put a stop to DP's tangering.
Yes,
because you
so
no
they
longer
say.
were going to inspect roads and things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they say that some believe that this has taken a chisel to the DP's kneecap and has left him politically and administratively bare. He has nothing left to do.
Absolutely. Other than welcome churches to Karen, yeah?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I like the couple analogy. I know it's been played out a little bit, but I like the way the Daily Nation sort of articulated it. What was interesting for me is, if this couple is old school, then they have a moral imperative to make the marriage work. Oh, wow. And so I predict that there will be another handshake.
Do you know, GK, I somewhat agree. You see,
wow.
Yeah,
let's take a moment.
Yes.
That he's agreeing.
You see, there is one thing about Uhuru Kenyatta, guys. You just cannot tell what he's about to do.
Yeah.
If he had a handshake with Raila Odinga when we least expected it, then it means if a handshake is imminent with William Ruto, then I mean, if it's going to happen, then we should not be surprised. Uhuru Kenyatta is a very pragmatic politician. And he's made everybody around him so weak. But at the same time, if things will go a certain way in the next couple of weeks or months, then a handshake is plausible.
I wouldn't say he's making people weak.
Uhuru Kenyatta has made people weak. Look at Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga, where is Kalonzo Musyoka is not with him.
I think what he's giving us a taste of what BBI is supposed to be all about.
Inclusive.
Yeah, this inclusive government, this inclusive politics.
Guys, does this Daily Nation story and headline look a little bit sponsored? Okay, no, that's true. Because it looks like whoever it is sort of propping up Fred Matiang'i.
Who's the sponsor? Say
Himself.
Very good.
Interestingly, his approach with government work, I don't know if that will work for him politically, because he's been quite brash and quite aggressive. So I don't know how that goes.
It probably will.
It will, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to, we can park it, because I was very intrigued. It's a very thoughtful sort of headline. Let's move to the Standard.
The Standard, cracking open the mystery of Corona billions.
Wow.
Now, they say baptism of fire for new Auditor General as Parliament demands special probe into COVID spending, where Treasury CS Yatani seeks to turn off the money taps. Now, the media, the nation but in particular, has made government go into panic mode.
Yeah, the nation or the Standard?
No, actually the nation.
Okay.
Because this story started with the nation on Monday.
Okay.
Now, I want to ask our viewers a question. If today, CS Health, Mutahi Kagwe, stands at Afya House and he says, policy statement, lemons will help you prevent corona from happening to you.
Hypothetically,
then someone goes to Egypt, gets a lemon for $1, comes back to Kenya and sells the same lemon for $3. Will he or she have taken advantage of COVID-19? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely.
No.
Yes, absolutely. Now, if Mutahi Kagwe stands and says, Ministry of Health protocols, if you wear a mask and you do sanitizing, you are going to prevent corona, then I go to Egypt and get the same things for $1 and come and sell for $3, have I taken advantage of COVID? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I want to ask our viewers one thing and tell them one thing as well. A COVID kit probably costs about, what, $10 to $12. When you go for a test for COVID-19 in a private hospital, you probably pay about 10,000 shillings.
So
that is
$100,
10 times the amount that the kit costs. Now, have the testers taken advantage of COVID-19? Yes or no? And that's just a swab on the nose and the throat. Have they taken?
Have.
Okay, very good. Now, you may not have COVID, but you go to the ICU in private hospitals, and then they charge you about 2.5 million shillings for staying in the ICU bed. Have they taken advantage of you being in the ICU because of your condition? Yes or no?
I keep saying yes, so I guess I'm stuck. Yes.
All right. Now let's go to things that we don't like to talk about, called death, for example. The average coffin maker probably takes about 15 to 20,000 shillings to build a coffin, and then sells it for about 50 to 60,000 shillings on average. Have they taken advantage of deaths? Yes or no? GK is not saying nothing. Say yes.
I'm waiting for you to
I'm
waiting for you to land this
yes,
plane.
Yes or no?
I'm trying to see what you're trying to
All right,
get
I'm the one
at.
who's saying yes for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Point is this: every single thing has a price on it, and maybe some of you today went to work by matatu. You paid 20 shillings to go to town, and on your way back the cost was 100 shillings. Did you agree with the conductor? No. Absolutely not. He exploited you. Point is this: you get exploited every single day. Every single day someone wants to make a coin out of you, including when you have disasters.
I think the
point is this: these guys who sold stuff during COVID times did not make any mistake, because show me a coin that was lost. Show me a single life that was lost because someone made profit from COVID billions.
I think, it lends itself also to sort of disaster capitalism, sort of like this.
Precisely.
You're sort of taking advantage of the moment. This is the thing. A lot of governments around the world have had to change their procurement systems because of the nature of doing things. You need to do something fast, so you're doing single source procurement. This isn't peculiar to Kenya alone.
Yes.
I think the issue is people are feeling sort of a pinch in the economy, and then you're paying 9 times the price of something. I mean, it's a cause
Let me
for
tell
concern.
you.
I think we need to put a pin in it just for now, but we can come back to this conversation because we still have one more story in the Star. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
And here we have Magoha telling us that boarding schools may be suspended in 2021. Now, the thing here is to do with preparedness. The dormitories themselves in secondary schools won't lend themselves to the social distancing that coronavirus will require. And regular hand washing may not be sort of something that can be done because water is still an issue in many of these schools. So the ministry is trying to take these drastic measures to scrap boarding facilities to keep children safe. Now, the ministry has been accused of being quite rigid and not being innovative when it comes to dealing with education during the pandemic. So for instance, they're being asked, why can't we sit for national exams? We have big centers all over Kenya. We can actually organize a way in which we transition these kids to do their national exams. So he's being asked to sort of be creative. So Sion is saying that we need to do local learning. So you learn in your locality and you return home. And this is using the Nyumba Kumi framework, which it's something. People are giving these ideas, and I think it's worth testing them out. And this is supposed to roll out in September. So we'll see how that goes.
You know what, GK?
Yes.
You know what Idi Amin used to tell his attorney general used to come and say, sir, we cannot be able to do this because the law says we cannot. And
make
Idi Amin
law.
would say,
Make law.
create law.
Make it work for you. So guys, we've had all the 3 headlines. We have a 3-part criteria. Very quickly, are they topical or speculative? Are they repetitive or groundbreaking? Are they thoughtful or just plain lazy?
I would go with the Daily Nation.
I love the lunch.
Yeah?
Go with the lunch.
Who's eating Ruto's lunch?
Matiang'i.
Our winning headline. Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy? Can we start with the Daily Nation?
Absolutely. And GK, you need a speed governor.
I know, she's taking us on a marathon.
Absolutely. Ndula, he has a drawing of a ship and has been named Parliament. And on top of Parliament is a small boat. It's named Senate, and it's the state of our leadership. But a ship called Parliament is sinking. Or is it sinking, or is it just high tides? I don't know. What's cartoon trying to tell us?
Well, the failure in Senate, guys. It's as simple as that. And the fact that leadership may not have Senate chose not to listen to its leadership.
Just throw that cartoon away. Okay. Standard. You have Gado. You have caricature of William Ruto. He's holding cards. 1 is Mudavadi. 2nd, Raila. 3rd, Wetangula. And K, Kalonzo. And he's wondering who to go for.
Yeah, this is a continuation from yesterday, where Gado had Raila holding the cards. Yeah. And instead of himself, now he had Ruto.
So look at Kalonzo, he looks lobotomized.
It's okay, so it's repetition.
It's a repetition, it's funny, but I think it's played out now.
So throw away. The star.
Oh, wow.
You have a caricature, Ozone. You have a caricature of Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto and Raila Odinga. With geese. Are these geese or ducks, whatever they are?
If you read the caption,
chicken. Chicken finally coming home to roost. But chicken don't look like this. They look like ducks.
I think the idea here is that normally, when you say the chickens are coming home to roost, it's normally used to mean that the bad thing that someone has done are coming to bite them in the...
Bite them, yeah.
It's a rubbish cartoon.
Yeah.
Toss.
So I, of course, know with Parliament in the background. Yeah.
No, I like this. I like this because, listen...
What don't you know about this?
These three have taken it for granted that they would get their way in Parliament and Senate. And now they're getting a little pushback. So I think this should get the winning cartoon.
Okay, you know what, GK? I agree with you.
Okay, now I agree. You've convinced me. So, Kusha.
The star gives us our winning cartoon.
Very good.
And now for our final thought. But before we get there, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled Chaos. A very short introduction by Leonard Smith.
Can I give a short summary of the week?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So this week we looked at the short histories of a bunch of stuff, right? On Monday we looked at a short history on behavioral economics by Michelle Badley. And she revealed that our lives are not that simple. Instead, our decisions are complicated by our own psychology. Each of us makes mistakes every day. We don't always know what's best for us. And even when we do, we may not have the self-control to deliver on our best intentions. On Tuesday, we looked at a short history of political philosophy by David Miller, where we looked at why politics is important, how we should live together in society, and the reasons why political authority matters. We looked at the limitations of politics, we assessed the allegory of good and bad government, the merits and demerits of democracy and decision-making, among other things. On Wednesday, we looked at corruption, a very short introduction by Leslie Holmes. We reviewed the reasons for the different conceptions of corruption, and one of the major reasons came out as being culture. We saw various cultural meanings towards corruption: the Russian blat, the Chinese guangxi, the British old school ties, and American networking. And some of the panel thought corruption should be actually legalized.
Yes.
And some said in early nation building, corruption is a necessary tool. On Thursday, we looked at big data, a very short introduction by Don E. Holmes. And here we saw how big data is transforming the way businesses operate and the way in which medical research can be carried out. We saw how sophisticated algorithms can be used to grow markets. And we talked about Netflix and Amazon and the future of big data. And how one day your fridge will be able to order milk for you from the shops and have it delivered via drone without even having you leave your home. And today, it's Friday, and we're talking about chaos.
Chaos. What a nice way to round out the week. So I think we can all admit that chaos is everywhere. It is a behavior that looks random, but actually really isn't random. But in the context that we'll look at it today, it's a very important area of contemporary mathematical research, where you study situations where small changes at the beginning of a certain process cause huge errors at the very end. So chaos is actually, as detrimental as it is, it's actually very important because it helps us cope in unstable systems by improving our ability to describe, to understand, and sometimes even to forecast situations ahead of us. Yeah. So essentially, we're studying behavior that looks random but isn't. So this is not only about weather forecasting or economic planning, but the idea is that a small mistake can have enormous consequences because chaos is essentially a synonym for randomness or unpredictability.
Absolutely.
So here we'll be talking about it in terms of like linear systems where everything is straight and according to plan, and non-linear systems where everything gets a little bit, confusing and out of hand. So the author provides a very brief introductory explanation to this topic of chaos, and he does it in an accessible level, and depending on what you enjoy, it's quite entertaining. I don't know what you guys think. So the butterfly effect is often quoted when talking about chaos theory. And so the concept is imagined as a butterfly flapping its wings and causing a storm halfway across the world. And so, of course, the single act of a butterfly flapping its wings cannot cause a typhoon or a hurricane. But the idea is that a small event, however small, can serve as a catalyst to a starting, consequence. And so the identification of this butterfly effect is credited to a man called Edward Lorenz, who was a meteorologist and a mathematician. And he successfully combined these two disciplines together to create chaos theory. So in the 1950s, Lorenz was trying to predict the weather. And in his experiments trying to predict the weather, he was entering data into his models. And so instead of entering the data as 0.506127, he entered the data as 0.506, as we normally do, you just round up. And so the result was surprising. Because of just changing those numbers a little bit, he got completely different results. And so that tiny change in the initial conditions had long-term effects. And so in popular culture, when we talk about the butterfly effect, sometimes we misuse it. So it's become almost synonymous with leverage, where we assume that situations can be manipulated to a desired effect. If you know how to manipulate the butterfly effect, you can get what you want. But this misses the insight that Lorenz had in the 1950s, because the reality for him was that small things in a complex system may sometimes have no effect at all to anything. They may be inconsequential, and that it also is sometimes difficult to even know what that small effect may even be, how to even pinpoint it. So at the end of the day, what we're actually trying to do is identify that slippery slope that will lead us to chaos. So you want to identify it before you get to the chaos. And an example that I found, which I thought was quite fitting, comes from a children's book called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, written by Laura Numeroff. So essentially the book goes like this. A boy gives a cookie to a mouse. The mouse asks for a glass of milk. Then the mouse requests a straw to drink the milk. Then he asks for a mirror to avoid a milk mustache as he drinks the milk. Then he asks for scissors to trim his mustache. Then he asks for a broom to sweep his mustache trimmings. Then he wants to take a nap. Then he wants to have a story read to him. Then he wants to draw a picture. Then he wants to hang the picture on the fridge. Then as he's looking at the fridge, he remembers that he's thirsty. So he asks for a glass of milk. Then when he gets the glass of milk, he wants a cookie. So the circle starts all the way from the top. And on and on and on. So I think it kind of shows you how crazy chaos can be. That one small thing, the act of giving a cookie, can lead you into this spiral of chaos. So I guess the moral of the story is don't let people into your bedroom.
As there's some political actors we can think of.
I think we could.
I know one who stays in Karen.
Yes.
Wow. Now, I was doing this chapter of why exponential growth is superior to linear growth. And I was talking to 2J, because she's better than me in math. She was able to interpret this for me. Chaos is about non-linear models, not linear models. This one is very sharp sometimes. Now, story is told about the origins of chess. Now, king of Persia was so impressed by a man called Sisa ben Dahir for creating the game of chess. Now, he wanted to reward him. So he asked him, boss, what do you want? Then Dahir says he wants quantities of rice based on the formation of a chessboard. Now, if you play chess, and I know there are very few people who play chess, people in Karen don't play chess, but people along Caledonia do. Now, chessboard has 8 by 8, 64 boxes. All right. Now, he says that he wanted rice. Now, 1 grain of rice to be put on the first square, second grain of rice to the second grain of rice to the second, fourth on the third, 8 on the fourth, and the effect is doubling the number on each square until it gets to number 64. Now, he calls this the rice map. Now, The rice map requires 1 grain for the first square again, then 2 for the second, 4 for the third, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128 until the last, that is for the last square on the row. Now, on the third square of the second row, we pass 1,000. All right, that's 1,000 grains of rice. Okay. Now, if you go all the way to the 64th square, you know how many grains of rice you get?
How many?
18 zillion grains of rice.
Zillion.
Zillion.
So that's past
trillion.
billion,
That's
trillion.
past billion, that's past trillion, right? Now, that is exponential. That's the exponential growth. Now, let's just go a little bit behind and then see what linear growth would give us. If you have to do with the linear growth, if you have to account per grain from 64 to 63 to 62, and then all the way 3 to 1, you'd only get to 1,000 grains of rice. Point is this, and he says this, and I want to quote him. He says, one of the surprising things about exponential growth is that whatever the values of these parameters, there will come a time at which exponential growth surpasses any linear growth, and will soon thereafter, and soon thereafter linear growth, no matter how fast the linear growth is, will not matter. And you see, when he said he wanted rice, I asked myself, this man has created such a beautiful game.
He wants to be paid.
In Kikuyu, they'll say, no, Moshere Areda. And like, oh, Moshere. But then, do you know what the value of rice he asked for was? It was worth 2 millennia of rice. That is 2,000 years worth of rice. Now, the commodity, the amount of money you get from that commodity would be absolutely staggering.
Interesting. I can't say I fully understood the whole story, but I will watch this
I don't blame you. A math person is right next to us.
Right. So, I mean, it's interesting. When I was reading this book, it's a little bit complex. It's not an easy read by any means. But I got stuck on weather, because weather is something that we tend to take for granted. And so he says in the book, we can hardly blame our forecasters for failing to provide a clear picture of where we're going to end up if we cannot give them a clear picture of where we currently are. It's not easy to make a prediction about anything, let alone the weather. And so operational weather forecasting, he says, is a remarkable phenomenon in and of itself. Every day observations are taken in the most sort of remote locations, and then they're communicated amongst national Met offices, meteorological offices around the globe. And then these nations then use their data to sort of make a model and predict their weather patterns. However, even such a simple model is subject to human error. And this means sometimes an observation is subject to a plain old mistake, like putting the temperature in the box for wind speed, or a typo, or a glitch in transition, and it's as simple as that. And that could sort of throw off your whole model for forecasting the weather. So that here, I think the thing I will just say is that human judgment, human calls are still important, because we've had series of storms that have been predicted, because the human judgment has been able to make an observation that overrides the computer. So humans are still
superior,
important, and I just want to leave you on that, with that, on a day where we had a winning headline from the Daily Nation and a winning from the cartoon, winning cartoon from the Star. I want to say this: chaos often breeds life when order breeds habit, and that was from Henry Adams. And I want to say that I'm very moved by chaos theory and that sense of sort of energy from some other place, the quantum physics of it. It reminded me of how God works, and the energy and the little sparks which are inside every one of us, inside our souls. So be inspired, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on TV. Go to the Thank you,